I'm happy. These are the kicks of a dying horse, and you can see France is dying in many places in the world, not literally, but in terms of losing her political grip, in terms of losing her economic grip, and that is in itself indicative of a system that has too many internal contradictions, and those contradictions are beginning to undermine their confidence. These are former colonizers that are losing their grip. We are going to make sure that they are defeated.
It is high time for France to lift its knee off our neck and put an end to this unjust oppression. Centuries of misery, human trafficking, colonization, and neo-colonization have caused immeasurable suffering. It's time to put an end to this cycle of oppression. It's high time for France to leave us alone. It's time for France to take a cue from its European neighbors and learn a valuable lesson in independence. Germany is the leading economic power in Europe, significantly surpassing France, which is ranked as the third or fourth largest economic power globally. Germany does not exploit any country, any colony. I can mention Italy, I can mention Spain, who had colonies before, but who do not exploit anyone, who do not interfere, who do not impose leaders in their former colonies. On what grounds does France believe it can continue to impose leaders on us and make choices on our behalf? This must come to an end. And the emerging Africa, the African youth, the African elites, and the African diaspora all stand united in saying no, it cannot continue any longer. France's hypocrisy is evident and pervasive in daily life. Let's examine the cases of Mali and Chad as prime examples of this hypocrisy. In Chad, where the constitutional process has been interrupted, France applauded and its president visited to officially consecrate the new king's coronation ceremony. In Mali, where it is not the constitutional process that has been interrupted, but the transition process, France has condemned and even packed up its things to say that it is leaving Mali. That's hypocrisy. It's the double standard. It is the double language that France employs in its dealings with Africa. During our questioning of Mr. Jean-Yves Le Drian regarding the situation in Ivory Coast and France's decision to allow a third term, he provided a clear explanation. He stated that while he accepted the third term for Ouattara, he refuses it for Belarus. He emphasized that France has condemned the situation in Belarus and has actively encouraged the European Union to do the same. Le Drian explains that in Belarus, millions protested, unlike Ivory Coast, where there were no mass demonstrations on the streets. This is how France deals with African issues. Personally, we expect absolutely nothing from France. We desire her to cease meddling in our matters so that the people of Senegal can exercise their freedom of choice rather than being influenced by France's selection of a candidate using the tactics we are aware of. We begin by targeting individuals, adorning them with the Legion of Honor or a similar knightly rank, enlisting them in Masonic lodges, and informing them to prepare themselves as they will be next in line. Even the hypothesis that Macky Sall may not succeed, we know who is being prepared by France. This must come to an end. It will not occur in this manner any longer. Let's be clear. We have absolutely nothing against the French people. In France, both political and citizen voices are rising to hold and express the same discourse as the one I am currently presenting to you. For example, the deputies, such as Mrs. Frédérique Dumas, who regularly speaks on the platform of the Assembly, who regularly writes to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, since she is a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee, to raise this unfair behavior of France towards Africa, hold the same speech as us. The same Mr. Jean-Luc Mélenchon, Jean-Paul Lecoq, André Chassaigne, all deputies, hold the same discourse as us, and hundreds of other voices. The NGOs, like other non-profit organizations, are doing remarkable work in the same direction. We strongly urge France to listen to the voices that speak to it about our plan for a more collaborative, fairer, and sustainable partnership between Africa and France. It is crucial that we work together towards a future that is equitable, just, and environmentally conscious. If she listens, I believe we'll have beautiful days ahead in our collaboration together. If he doesn't know how to cut it, thinking he can continue to function like in the time of our grandfathers, this African youth no longer accepts it. France must make preparations for a definitive break and completely withdraw from Africa. Africa belongs to Africans, not France. She belongs to no one else, neither China, nor the United States, nor anyone else.
Modern day political chessboard. And therefore, when you see them doing the things that they are doing, making noise, you've seen, for example, President Macron saying that we must win in Ukraine. We cannot allow the Russians to win. We are going to make sure that they are defeated. A very unfortunate statement, if you ask me. If you say that this is a conflict between Ukraine and Russia, and a foreign power which has a very dark historical past is saying we must win, it tells you that this is a proxy war. And these are the kicks of a dying horse. And you can see France is dying in many places in the world, not literally, but in terms of losing her political grip, in terms of losing her economic grip. And that is in itself indicative of a system that has too many internal contradictions, and those contradictions are beginning to undermine their confidence. So that even when they talk about Ukraine, they are also scrambling to retain their power in the Sahelian region, and they are losing it. There is even anecdotal evidence that some of the insurgencies that you now see in Burkina Faso, the insurgencies you see in Mali, in Guinea, are actually financed at the behest of France. And when they see a country like Chad continuing to behave as if it were a neo-colony, then they like it, and they are going to do everything to protect her for their benefit. Africa finds herself in a very interesting situation as we speak, and I'm speaking about Africa in the full knowledge that Africa is diverse, that Africa has different hands at play, that African countries have different historical experiences, that the British still want to be here, the Portuguese want to be here, the Belgians want to be here, the Americans, of course, want to be here, the Chinese want to be here, the Turks want to be here, everybody wants to be here. But France is a lot more desperate. Desperate because historically she has retained a stranglehold on her former colonies, the 14 of them, and she has retained that stranglehold through economics, so that even their economies and their currencies are denominated on the basis of what France says. Their resources are controlled from France, their resources are exploited by the French, and therefore what we see as a rebellion or a revolution in countries such as Guinea, such as Mali, such as Niger, such as Burkina Faso, if they are handled well, they are the beginning of a new wave of thinking, which is sending a clear message to the colonizer turned neo-colonizer that African countries now want to reorganize their governance in a manner that responds to the reality of their situations, in a manner that will enable them to be in charge of their economies, in a manner that will ensure that they are no longer satellite states. But that only depends on how those administrations midwife the transition between the military takeovers into the next phase, where there'll be people participation. And it's not going to be easy, because countries like France never say die. They are going to fight, they are going to ensure that the process of transition is not easy. They are going to have fifth columnists within those administrations trying to torpedo whatever good thing that is designed to happen. And it is incumbent upon African countries to therefore wake up and, in a manner of speaking, smell the coffee, to use that cliche and slang, and know that the sooner we embrace these changes, the safer Africa is. And I'm happy that, of course, ECOWAS did backtrack and have now said they are lifting the sanctions on the countries that had been sanctioned after the military takeovers. And it was not lost on me that indeed on the 13th day of February, the former president of Nigeria, General Yakubu Gowon, who was one of the founders of ECOWAS, wrote to all the heads of state and said, please lift these sanctions, engage these people. And almost a week later, or even earlier, all the heads of state met in Abuja in Nigeria and the sanctions were lifted. And I hope that this is the kind of impetus that is going to gain traction so that Africa benefits positively from these changes. Remember, in many African countries, the ballot has been abused to the detriment of the people, and the people are yearning for genuine change that will liberate them from the external colonizers and even the internal colonizers who are latter-day politicians who are using state resources to remain in power and to do the bidding of foreign powers.